Good morning. China's Belt and Road Initiative has completely transformed the economies and supply chains for the world, and Western governments are pretending to want to do something about that. Recent developments in Africa serve as a great case study as to why the BRI is successful and why our own attempts to slow it down are not working. The shaded area at the middle of that map, which is of southern Africa, by the way, is the Copper Belt. It's the world's primary source of copper ores and is concentrated in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and in Zambia. Note too that Zambia is landlocked and so is dependent on overland transportation to export anything to global markets. And it follows from there that Zambia needs strong diplomatic ties with any of their neighbors that they hope to export through. The Lobito Development Corridor is the westbound train from copper mines in the DRC to Lobito, a port on the Atlantic Ocean. There is a recent proposal to add another route which will benefit miners in Zambia. Going the other way is a railway line that already runs from Zambia eastbound to Dar es Salaam. The Tazara railway line was built decades ago and urgently needs to be upgraded if it's to carry heavy cargoes like copper ores. So that's a summary of where things stand now, and we have two pieces from 2024 which explain plans for that railway expansion into Zambia for access to Western markets. The entire motivation is to counter China, which has enormous economic influence in Africa. In 2009, China became Africa's biggest trade partner. Now the United States is catching up against China's BRI, a colossal infrastructure and economic development project spanning 3 continents. In 2023 alone, China put over $21 billion into Africa. And the idea is that the Lobito corridor will mirror the Belt and Road. But that is not quite true, and this helps us see the problem more clearly. This comes from the Lobito Corridor Investment Promotion Authority, which is just what it sounds like. It's an agency seeking private investments for this project. It's a US and EU project and a partnership with 3 countries, Angola, the DRC, and Zambia. Then comes the African Finance Corporation and the African Development Bank, and then some more from the PGII, which collects and manages the money, almost $1 billion so far. From the United States, the Development Finance Corporation is doing due diligence for $250 million, and the EU has pledged $1 billion to African infrastructure, which includes this project, but doesn't say how much. So this structure is already unwieldy and wobbly and subject to whatever political winds are blowing in those 3 African countries, and also in the European Union, and in the United States, who is now under new management with the Trump administration. It gets more complicated, as the entire financing for the project from the operations side is based on high freight volumes from companies with proportional ownership, and then again through their subsidiaries. The companies there are already frustrated with transportation out of the DRC because of truck driver strikes and illegal road tolls, and so they love the idea of a railroad that might avoid those things. The bad news there, of course, is that railroad strikes also happen all the time, and any train passing through any jurisdiction can also be stopped and the traffic disrupted. And we might suppose that the people most motivated to do that would be truck drivers who are now out of jobs. Here is the biggest irony of all, though. Even if this US-EU railroad gets built, it's more likely to be Chinese companies who use it. China is the biggest consumer of copper. This is where the industries are that need it all. Chinese companies already control many of the mines in the region and sell to customers here in China. And this railroad may simply make their lives easier. Western governments must ask themselves exactly what they're trying to achieve. It won't change the big picture at all.